When should you buy? Super Bowl Sunday, Black Friday. When it's time to buy, what should you buy? These aren't the important questions. The most important question is, who are you as a buyer? What type of buyer are you? I sound like I'm selling an audiobook of some kind. I promise you I'm not. Here are the type of buyers there are.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hey, what's up guys? I'm Brian. This is Tech Therapy. Today's video will be about the type of buyer you are. We talk about Super Bowl, when to buy, what to buy, but we never really identify the type of person or their preferences or their habits or the way they purchase TVs. I don't think you guys even realize what your purchasing style is or what your tendencies are. It is always, what should I buy? When should I buy? I figured we'd do this now as Super Bowl is right around the corner. There are a lot of Super Bowl videos out there. No desire to really do that video, but I think this would be a fun tech therapy one. I have a list of 7 buyers. These are broad groups. We will talk about finance. We will talk about habits. We will make fun. We will joke. Hopefully you won't take it too personal, as you will have some of the traits on this list. I know that I do. I would love for you in the comments to say what is either not on the list, which part of these buyers do you feel like you're part of or you compare well to, and then add in which parts you agree with or disagree. But what is so important to find what you want is to realize who you are. Now we have the lists 1 through 7. 1 would be the highest probability of buying. We will have a low and high side. We will make fun and joke and make light of kind of a serious conversation for each group or subgroup. Some share probabilities with each other, or I should say personalities and traits of one another. So we will list them quickly. 1 is Richie Rich. 2 is Blade Runner. 3 is Even Steven. 4 is SemiPro. 5 is Cautious Carl. 6 is Fanatic. 7 is Troll. Group number 1 is the easiest. Richie Rich is someone who has a lot of money, who is wealthy, that has a need. Their buying probability is 10. They're only researching because they need something. They go out and get it. Doesn't necessarily mean they will buy the highest end. So the high side and the low side of this group. The high side kind of bleeds into the Blade Runner, which is the next one down. They want the best of the best. They don't care. They walk in. Tell me what it is. I've seen it in person. They want the projector, they want the amp, they want the screen, they want the furniture, they want the stand, they want everything. Spare no expense a la Jurassic Park, and they're ready to rock. The next group in that same group, however, is very cheap, or should I say frugal. They have money for a reason. They will do the research, not see this video, as I don't do many top 3 TVs of the year. They look for that group. They see the top one. They think it's not too expensive. They go with the second one. Being frugal is why they have money, but they will spend money on what they think has value, meaning they will build a $5 million house and fill it with cheap TVs. Remember, TVs are an appliance after all. I know many wealthy folks that have amazing rooms with amazing furniture and by the middle of the road. Now, where they get tripped up and what the problem is with this group is ignorance is bliss. They will go with the top brands they are familiar with. They will not go outside their comfort zone and go with anything that doesn't sound like high end. So there goes your TCL and your Hisense. They're going to stay with the top 3 bands or brands they've heard of over the years, which means a lot of times they're buying a lower end or mid tier of the highest end, as they don't know any better on what the highest end is. They buy that. And also, ignorance is bliss. They typically don't go back and research. They're not tortured over any particular thing. Buying probability is 10. Blade Runner is where the fun begins. It's one of my favorite groups. This is the group that cannot sit still. They need to make that purchase. They research, they look. They don't have to research often. They get a spec they like, something that catches their eye, and they go for it. They're aggressive. They have to have money to some degree, so they do bump into the elite or the number one Richie Rich in this group. They do share some of those traits. You have to have money to be in the bleeding edge, or you have to be responsible or disciplined and save, or irresponsible and overpay, which actually can be dangerous. They do have fear of missing out. They do want to have the bragging rights. The drawback to bragging rights is they are tomorrow's fool. However, Blade Runner does not care about that, because before buyer's remorse shows up, they're buying the next thing. So with Blade Runner, it's about excitement. It's about the adrenaline. It's about the endorphins. They have the newest thing. They enjoy it. The drawback to Blade Runner is a lot of times they are too aggressive, move too quickly. They're always looking to the next thing. They have a very hard time being present. It can be torturous, as they may also make the wrong decision. They buy too soon. They buy at launch before they can see what the competitor puts out. A very aggressive Blade Runner will buy that and the competitor. They'll also have so much unboxed that they haven't even enjoyed yet. A lot of times they're successful, very aggressive. They buy something to have it, to possess it, however, don't have the time to enjoy it. The biggest drawback for them, again, is the inability to really live in the moment and enjoy the technology that they have. But Blade Runner is one of my favorite groups, but that is the group that is typically happy, ready to go, anxious, but excited, and they're the ones that are always on the move, and one of my favorite groups on the list. Now, Blade Runner's buying probability is a 10 or a 9. It falls to 9 if they want to wait for the competition to come out, but they are making a purchase and making many of them. Number 3 is Even Steven. Sounds exactly how it sounds. Even keeled, even temperament. Know kind of what they want, but they are eager to learn and find out throughout the year between seeing reviews, doing research, but not being too aggressive. They know what they want. They know where the TV is going to be. They have a ballpark of what they want to purchase. They can also be cutting edge to a degree, but they have the patience to hang back and wait. Not too patient. They won't wait out the entire year. They need 1 or 2 price drops to get the lay of the land before they make that purchase. Even Steven typically buys and then enjoys the product. Doesn't take back many TVs because they've done their research. They are the most confident of the entire group. The other groups, Richie Rich will buy, not think about it. The elite one is not comment. They're on the move. They're not confident. They're doing their thing. Even Steven is the confident one. They're the one that kind of hangs back, watch everybody else go nuts on this list. Then they make their purchase. They tend to be very happy. They're going to hold on to their TV for a few years. Richie Rich is going to buy with the next house. Our good friend Blade Runner is buying whenever the next one comes out. Even Steven will buy when there is a need, but for the most part, the technology jump has to be pretty large or a big jump up in size. Even Steven will also buy higher end as their lifestyle or their money-making ability goes up. The more money they make, the more they will spend, but they will do it with confidence, pride, and they will enjoy the ride. Buying probability for Even Steven is an 8 or a 7. Number 4 is SemiPro, and this is where some of you guys may take offense to this. SemiPro is someone who is overly analytical engineer, might be an engineer, or is a semi-pro engineer. Now, we're not trying to insult anyone here. Many of us YouTubers fall under semi-pro. You watch all the videos, you're so overly analytical, whether it is wanting to be an engineer or a calibrator would fall into this category. You are very knowledgeable, very intelligent. Don't really buy a lot though. It's a lot of slides, a lot of analytics, a lot of numbers. You're more about the numbers, the comparisons. The drawback is you can't see the forest from the trees. You do get very indecisive. You tend to judge the other groups. You kind of also sway them on what to buy. A lot of times you're the one hanging back and wanting to do an analysis. This group knows what they want, but don't really know because there's the paralysis by analysis. There is too much data. They're constantly waiting for the next number, the next update. It's a little bit of a tortured soul if they're buying. If they're not buying, they're the ones that can be a bit smug. They can hang back and in the comments drop a paragraph of the EOTF or the APL or the nits or the build or the chip. It's also a very fun group, and we can learn, all of us, a lot from this group. They are very knowledgeable, not always the most social, not always the most agreeable, or will be willing to have a fun conversation. They are great when they have a product that they like. They are very tough when they are buying. They really don't make the purchase. They will rake you over the coals about what this can do and what that can do, what they've read. They are really deep into the forums. Now, the other top three, Richie Rich, never in the forums. Blade Runner is in the forums trying to see what's being said, though Blade Runner's too quick because they're buying first. Even Steven may be in the forums. If it gets a little toxic, that person's buying out or jumping out of the forums. SemiPro either wants to write the forums, is deep in the jungle of the forums. Again, calibration, learning to be a calibrator, wanting to be a calibrator, but has a hard time as it's paralysis by analysis, or they're preaching so much they're not buying anything. Now, if they are the calibrator, they're not really in this conversation as it is SemiPro. That's more of a wannabe engineer or a wannabe calibrator. Some of us can fall into that. Some calibrators and engineers can fall into that. But the problem is paralysis by analysis. At times, they do not purchase, cannot see the forest from the trees. A lot of them will have a TV from 4 or 5 years ago. That one is sacred to them, and they judge each one by its specs, not by its picture quality. Buying probability for SemiPro is a 6, maybe a 7 if they're looking, but they will go the entire year. SemiPro also will suffer from buyer's remorse as they will do all the research and then fall victim to the specs coming out next time, and they'll get transfixed on those specs, comparing them. They also get in trouble defending their purchase, which leads to the next group. But SemiPro is where things can start to get stagnant and they may not make a move. Again, buying probability, maybe a 6 or a 7. Up next is Cautious Carl, or the Worrywart. This is the person that has been damaged in the past. I've been on this part of the list myself. A lot of defective TVs, not confident buying wise, doesn't want to spend the money, is hard up to make a decision, gets too concerned from what they've read. Again, paralysis by analysis for this group. They've read too many things. They also are affected by the last thing said. They watch a video or read a piece about something. The minute someone else says something, they fall victim to that. This group is very flimsy. Very little confidence in this group at times. They hang back too much. Again, if they've had a bad experience, the high side of this group is just being cautious. But they can be cautious to a fault. They're going throughout the year and not making a purchase. A lot of this group still has a 1080p TV. Now, SemiPro may have a 1080p plasma, and that is still king. Again, I love plasma, but I have to joke that you're missing out on 4K and 8K. So they hang back and they do all the research, but don't pull the trigger. It's also a worrywart. That's the person that also buys a TV and either returns it on transit before it even gets there because they change their mind, or they can't get situated. They'll watch the TV, they think they like it, they don't know how they feel, they ask each other's opinion, they'll go online, then they get into the forums, or they watch a review that happened months later. It gets a bad review. They get concerned, they come back into the comments or into the videos. They have a very hard time. I do feel for this group because they are fans of the TVs. They love the technology. Finance may be a part of it. They don't want to spend the money, which is understandable, but they are the tortured soul of the group. As they are sensitive, they do feel a lot. They can't pull the trigger. They're not sure what they want to hold on to. They are probably the neediest in the comments in terms of you need to hold their hand and help them make a purchase. Why this list isn't necessary is to know you don't really need that, but they're too cautious. They hang back too much, and they tend not to hold on to their TVs. They tend to buy 3 or 4 of them, return them, and at times go back to the side of the pool and hold on to their plasma or 1080p TV from a number of years ago. The problem with cautious Carl or the worrywart is there is high anxiety in this group. This group still wants something. It still keeps them up at night, but the fact that they can't pull the trigger, they're watching life pass them by. They're also watching content on TVs they really don't want to. They're missing out on a lot of gaming, a lot of HDR. They're missing out on some really great. So they do great content. They do have the fear of missing out, but that fear of buyer's remorse is more powerful than the fear of missing out. They're afraid to pull the trigger. This group I do feel for is they're typically very sweet, very nervous, somewhat damaged. It's also one of my favorite groups and the ones that we talk to mostly in the comments. This group can very easily, with the right confidence and the right self-worth, jump into even Steven, and they will be better off and have the TV they love. And that's what a lot of us are here for, is to help out cautious Carl. Buying probability is a 3 or a 4. Number 6 is the fan or fanatic. Fan is short for fanatic. After all, on the high side of this group is somebody who is a brand loyal, and loyalty is never a bad thing unless it is blind loyalty. On the high side, this group loves a particular manufacturer, Sony, Panasonic. Those are the two that I see more than anything. Samsung, LG. TCL and Hisense, that group hasn't really developed that fanatic group yet, but the other group can be very aggressive. They are guarding that particular manufacturer. Check any video that is specific to one manufacturer, you will find the fanatic in there. That group, what I do respect about them is they know what they want. There's not a lot of math to do. They pick the 2 highest end from a given manufacturer and they go after it. They buy it. They're happy. The challenge with that group is they're not very open-minded. They are not open to new things. And at times, they will blindly follow a company or a manufacturer, whether they improve year to year. On the low side, where they get is very aggressive, attacking other brands or other people within comments and forums. They also can't see the forest from the trees, a lot like our SemiPro. They like what they like. That's all they know, whether they've seen it or not. I know this group simply because they will agree that the next version of this is better than something that is already out. Ignorance is bliss for this group. There is no math to do. They buy, they purchase, they're happy, they went with this brand. The challenge with this group, the fan, is also someone that feels the need to defend their purchase. Unlike Blade Runner, that has it before anybody else, doesn't care what you think because you don't have what they have anyway. They're just going on it full speed. The fan is very different. That is the person that buys it and then hangs out throughout the year defending their purchase. They want affirmation. They'll say, hey, Bri, you're a Sony guy, right? Then they are betrayed if us as influencers buy something else. I do feel for the fanatic because at times they can get very angry and take themselves out of a situation because they're blindly following a manufacturer. Brand loyalty or loyalty of any kind is a beautiful thing, but the fanatic group likes their group. Again, think about it in terms of sports. You don't blindly love your team. You root for your team no matter what. However, when buying any kind of product, especially TVs, it doesn't mean you stick with a manufacturer if their product suffers. You can be a fanatic of a team, whether they stink, they're your dad's team, you are loyal to that. In products, you are spending more money for inferior products due to the brand. That is the double-edged sword of the fanatic who is also brand loyal. Buying a probability of Fanatic is either a 10 or a 0. 10, they will buy whatever the manufacturer puts out next. 0, because they're so happy and so loyal to the TV they just bought, they're going to hang back and torture everyone else from different camps, even those within the same camp. So when they're in need, they are a 10. They will buy before the reviews are out. Where the soul is tortured, though, is if they buy, much like Blade Runner, but they don't buy on research, they buy due to what they think is best. Then they watch throughout the year. If that display or TV doesn't do well, then they're in the comments fighting it because they know they made the wrong purchase. They judged it or perceived it as being the brand they wanted. They went after it without doing their research. But their probability, they need something, it's a 10. They're happy, it's a 0 for quite a few years. Now, each group up to this point has redeeming qualities. Richie Rich, wealthy, generous, buys what they want. There is 0 drama from Richie Rich. They buy, they leave. Cutting edge, bleeding edge, all of us will watch them rise or flame out. Either way, they're going a million miles an hour, and they're giving you a lot of their firsthand experience. They tend to not be aggressive towards others. They just get what they want and they go. You get to watch them make their purchase. We can learn a lot from them. Even Steven is very helpful, hangs in the middle, is very friendly, buys what they want, hangs out for the conversation, and typically doesn't need a lot of help. They are neither negative, they're typically never negative, but they are pretty positive, but also reserved. They hang back, they're patient. SemiPro, on the other hand, can be overly analytical, a little judgmental, also brilliant, a lot of knowledge, a lot you can learn from SemiPro if they're in a good place. If they've already bought and they're happy, they may fall into the fan subgroup, but for the most part, they can be a little tough to deal with when they're not happy. When they're buying, they're very tough. When they're on the edge, they're very tough, but they are very smart and typically can be very lovely people when they're not throwing their opinion on you, as I'm doing right now. Cautious Carl is your sweetheart, wants the affirmation, needs it, wants to know, needs help, can be a bit anxiety-ridden, really struggles. And then you also have the Fanatic. The Fanatic, as we mentioned just now, brand loyal, can be sweet, can be vivacious, can be angry, aggressive, can be tough to be around, cannot be argued with, cannot be dissuaded from their thought. The last group is not redeemable at all for the most part, is the troll. Considering we can't really see a troll, they're the ones that are just happy, hating everything. They're the ones that do end up sometimes blocked in live streams. Toxicity is the fuel. They're the ones that are just happy that you're not happy. That is the goal. These are the ones that you really shouldn't listen to in the comments. There are not redeemable qualities here. They're the ones that'll jump in and say, this sucks, that sucks, but there is no evidence behind it. They just want you to be unhappy. They don't care if you're friends with them or not. So the troll is the one not redeemable, has no great qualities on this list. Buying probability is 0. A lot of times they're the ones in the forums driving the most knowledge, driving the most, but may not even have the panel, the ones that hate the most. There are many lovely people in the forums, very knowledgeable. They are some of the best places for information. It also can be a haven for this group. It's also rampant on YouTube. You will see them in the comments of this video. They will hate everything I've said from top to bottom in this video, and that is okay, as there is no arguing, there is no pleasing them, and that is not the goal that I have. So troll is the one non-redeemable or one that will not change in this group, but all the others are lovely, and there is much to talk about in regards to them. That is my list. Where do you fall in this list? I can tell you where I fall. In the comments, I want to hear where you fall. I know that I have never been in the elite because I am not wealthy. I am not a troll. I've been a fan at times. I have definitely been Cautious Carl. I have a hard time being even Steven. I definitely am not SemiPro. Which are you? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I will see you in the comments. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Take care.
I've seen things